Friendship is a vital component to any social gaming app. It allows us to know when certain users are online, the ability to chat with these users one-on-one, as well as team collaboration if we want those users to join our game. Today we're going to focus on building that friendship component by classifying our friends in 5 different categories. The first category is no relation at all. The second category is we've sent an invite to another user. The third category is we've received an invite from another user. The fourth category is me and the other user are friends. And the final category is I have the other user blocked. By the end of this video, we'll be able to transition in between these states as we please. Back in the GIF grab server project, we need to now create an RPC function that will let us know the current relationship status between 2 users in the game. And this is going to be another RPC function. So I'm going to copy and paste delete ID, and we're going to modify that. Let me create the friend directory for the friend.go, package friend, and we'll paste this in. We can take all this out. And let's change this to get friendship state. And I'm going to change user ID to source ID to be more specific, because we're going to use the source ID to represent me and then the destination ID to represent the person that I'm trying to determine the relationship between me and that other person. So first I need to create a struct. This is going to allow us to parse the incoming JSON payload. Var request, which is a struct, and we'll just say destination ID, and it will have this format. So this is saying when we get the payload, we need to look for the destination ID on that payload. Now we need to actually parse the JSON payload from the client request, and we do that by unmarshalling the JSON. JSON.unmarshal, pass in the payload as an array of bytes, and then also the request itself. If there is an error that occurred, we need to log it, and we can simply say failed to unmarshal payload, and return the error. And we return an empty string when we're in the so we return the error on the logger, and then we also need to return an error for the actual result of this request. Errors, new, invalid JSON payload. Now we need to extract the destination ID from the request. Destination ID. And we also need to validate that the destination ID is not empty. If it is, return no value, but instead a new error. Destination ID cannot be empty. Now we can actually create the query. So this query will be used to find the relationship state between 2 users by looking in the user edge table for a directed relationship from source ID to destination ID. Let's select state from the user edge table, where destination ID equals the second param and the source ID equals the first one. And let's also limit this to 1. We also need to create a state property that will be used to represent what the current relationship state is. And now we can actually just execute the query. DB query row, pass in the query, pass in the source ID, pass in the destination ID. And then we scan that result into that state property. Now there are some errors that can occur, so we need to also check for those. If error is not equal nil. The first error that can happen is no rows were found, which essentially means that we don't have a relationship with this user. So if the error equals error no rows, then we just return -1, meaning we don't have a relationship with this user. There can also be a normal database error, query error more specifically. So we need to account for that as well. However, if everything goes smooth and there are no issues, then we can just return whatever that value for the state property was in the table. All right, that looks good. Now, if I go over to main.go, and this is an RPC, so we're going to add it to the register RPCs method, and it will be called get account, nope, not get account, get friendship state, and we will call on that get friendship state method. This looks good, so I'm going to build this, and that was successfully built. So now I'm going to go over to the local server, and currently we have 2 users in here. So these will be the 2 users that I will test for a relationship. So I'm going to copy these IDs temporarily. And let's go to the API Explorer and look for get friendship state. So I will have this first user ID as the source ID and the second user ID as the destination ID. And we need to return a map. Oops, destination ID. And then we'll pass in that ID as the destination ID. Hit send request, and we get -1, which is what we expect because there is no relationship between these 2 users as of right now. So this is good. This means that our RPC function is working as expected. Now that the server is giving us the RPC function for determining a relationship between 2 users, we need to be able to now update the client app to be able to use that same RPC function. And we can start with the profile page. I'm going to go over to the user read block, and I'm going to add a nullable friendship state here. This will represent, is this user a friend of mine or not? And I'll add it to the copy with as well. That's right. And then I also need a way to explicitly set the friendship state to null, because with this logic right here, if it's null, it will always just be reset to whatever was on the state currently. But we need to be able to also manually set the friendship state to null. And we can do that by adding a flag on the copy with method. It'll be a bool that says clear friendship state. And it will be false by default, but then when I want to use it, I'll just set it to true. And then within friendship state, if clear friendship state is true, then we'll use null. Otherwise, we'll fall back to the original check here. I also need to add that to the properties. Now I need to update the RPC functions. We need to add a new one for the get friendship state. Get friendship state, as well as the ID. Going over to the user read block. Now we need a way to get the current friendship state. I'm going to create a helper method that will return a nullable friendship state. We'll call it get friendship state. That will take in a session and a UID of whatever user we're trying to determine our relationship with. first thing we need to do is get that state or whatever the value is from the RPC function. I'm going to use an underscore just for simplicity. Call RPC, pass in the session, RPC functions dot get friendship state dot ID. Also need to pass in the payload, which is JSON encoded, and it is destination ID and the UID of the user. Then once we have that value, it's a string, and we can just switch over it. The first case is 0, and in that case, that means we are mutual friends. In the case of 1, that means it's a outgoing request. I've sent you a friend request, you haven't responded yet. If it's case 2, it's an incoming request. That means I'm on the other side of that coin. And then case 3 is I have blocked you as a friend. Oops, friendship state dot blocked. And then the null case is going to be null, or the default case is null, because this means that we don't have a relationship, and pretty much you can send a request when you're in this state. So then we'll go back up right before we emit the information about a user and create a friendship state property. Await get friendship state, pass in the session, and as well as the UID, and then we'll emit that to the state. Friendship state was friendship state, as well as clear friendship state if friendship state equals null. For this part, we can now create a block for actually updating a friend. So right now we have all these blocks here, so we're going to follow the same flow, creating a block for updating a friendship. Mason make Flutter block feature. The name we friend update. Type block style basic. Not in the right directory, so I'm going to just pull that down and put this into blocks. Okay, so I'm going to go to friend update state, make this a state class, add the imports, and on here I'm going to add a nullable string for success, because we need to be able to know, was our attempt to update the friendship state successful or not. And it essentially operates the same way as the error does. Then I need to create a method for sending the request. This is called send request. And this is going to need a UID, because we need to know who we're sending the request to. We can now go over to the update block, and let's take this out, but we need to add our dependencies, Nakama based client, session service, and the first thing that we need is we need a helper method to perform some of these client actions, because there's going to be a lot of methods for this class, but they're all going to use either a add, delete, or block functionality on the client. So this helper method will just be like a central call that they can use, since they're all using the same method. we'll call this perform friend action, which will take in a success message. Then we need to pass a function. Then we need to pass a function that takes a session or passes a session, and this will be called client action. And then we need the emitter for the friend update state. All right. Okay. So this is actually going to call the run with error handling. And first thing that we need to do, set the loading flag to true. We also need to get a session from the client. No, not that, I'm sorry. Session service, not from the client, from the session service. Then we can call the client action, whatever that is, pass in the session, and then we will emit a success message to be whatever the success message is that was passed in. Now I can add the actual event, block event, send requests for friend update state, and I'll register that way I don't forget. And take this out actually. We're going to be calling perform action. The success message will be friend request sent. The client action, which has a session coming to it. This one is going to be a add friends method. Since we are sending a request, we are technically adding a friend or attempting to add a friend. Then we'll pass in the UID from the event and wrap it up that way. All right, perfect. Also, we're not going to have a friend update page, so I'm going to comment this out. Now I need to create a widget for displaying the current relationship between two users. And this button is essentially going to be a button to send a request or cancel a request or reject a request, all these things, but it's going to be a different button based on whatever the relationship is. But we can go to view and create friendship state button .dart. It's a state list widget. Friendship state button. We'll import that. I don't want to do widgets, I want to do material. And we need to add the dependencies. First, we need the UID of whoever we're talking about, someone I have a request for, someone I blocked, whatever it is. Then we also need the friendship state. Friendship state. And then I'll pass those in here. Now, if I come down to the build, this is where I'm going to actually create the widget. So first, I'm going to need two blocks here. I'm going to need the friend update block. Friend update block. Import. And I also need the account read block. Account read block. Now I need the account read block because I want to get the current account information. And I also need to know, is this my profile or not? And just checking based on the UID equaling the account, the user ID on the account that's currently authenticated. After that, we can come down and just do a switch over the friendship state. And all the cases, let's go ahead and exhaust those. So for the null case, we're only focusing on that right now because the null case means that we don't have a relation. So we want to be able to have a button that says, hey, send a request, but I'm only going to do this if it's not my profile. Otherwise, I'm just going to return an empty screen. So first, I'm going to check, is my profile? If so, then I'll just return a size box.shrink. However, if it's not my profile, then I'll return an elevated button. And child will just be some text that says send request. And then the action is going to be me calling the friend update block and then calling the send request method with that UID. And we'll get to these other cases in a minute. Now I need to go to the profile page. Oops. Which is profile page. And I'm going to inject the friend update block here. So since we have a block provider, we just need to replace this with a multi-block provider. And that child will be the profile view. And then we'll add this provider. Take out this child. Okay, now we can add the block provider for friend update. A friend update block. Friend update block needs a get Nakama client and a session service. Session service. Okay, that's good. If I come down here, I also need to put this block builder inside of a block listener because now we need to listen for updates that happen on that friend update block. This will be a block listener for the friend update block. And we need to add friend update state. And let's create that listener here, context and state. Actually, we'll get back to that in a second. Now I'll put the child back here. So the block builder now is just wrapped in the block listener. So what happens on the listener is if there is a success that happens, then we need to call the user read block to read the user again because we have updated information now about the friendship. First, I'm going to display the success. And then I want to call, actually, let me create that up here, the user read block. And then in here, I'll just call user read block, add read user. And then down here in the builder, I'm going to come below the circle avatar and I'm going to create a position for the friendship button. I only want to display it if the user is not null, otherwise we can't really use it. So I'm going to add that check there. If user is not null, then I'll add the children, and otherwise that'll be null. I think I did that right. Nope, it's outside. So within the column, I'm going to first add some padding to get it away from the circle avatar. And then right below that, I'll add the friendship state button, friendship, there we go. friendship state button, which is the user ID, and then the friendship that's on the state. That looks good. Now let's see what this looks like inside of the app. Okay, well, let me go to the local production, not local, I'm sorry, the production server, so that we can see what's going on here. Okay, I have these accounts. I am Dave Chappelle right now, and I want to send a request to somebody. I want to send a request to, let's send a request to Trey Codes. Not showing up. I think I know what this may be related to. Our RPC function may not be working. Yes. Get friendship ID. Is that what I had for the ID? Hold on. RPC. Wow. Wrong one. Get friendship. What did I call that? Get friendship state. That's what it was. Let's try this again. Okay. Profile working now. So I want to send a request to Trey Code. So I have this send request button that pops up. If I hit send request, unimplemented error. Okay. So it updated the state because now the friendship state is outgoing request, but I have throw unimplemented error here. I need to change these to a shrink box. But if we go to my profile for Dave Chappelle and I go to friends, you can see I have a friendship, technically, quote unquote. It's in the invite sent state. So it's number 1. And on the other side for Trey Codes, he has invite received. But this is the first event of transitioning different friendship states, sending a request. So I'm going to create a new method called cancel outgoing request. It's going to be very similar to send request. Actually, I'll just call it cancel request since we just have send request. And I need to then come over to the block and create a very similar structure to send requests for cancel requests. And this will say friend request canceled. And it'll be a delete friends call on the client because it's essentially like a negative step in transitioning friendship status. So we'll call delete friends there, and then I will register it here. And then we need to go to the friendship state button and modify the outgoing request to instead return an elevated button that says cancel request, cancel, and it will call cancel request. Now, if I refresh, and if I go to Trey Code's profile, I'll see I have a cancel request button available now. If I hit it, I now go back to the null status, meaning we're not friends anymore, we're not anything, and I can send a request again. So I can send, cancel, send, cancel. The next event that we need to take action for is being able to reject a request. And this is coming from the perspective of the person who received the request. So I'm going to follow the same flow. We'll call this reject request. And then within the block, I'm going to copy cancel request. And this will say, we'll just say request canceled. Well, actually, we'll just keep it. Friend request rejected. And then this is for reject request. And this is a delete friends action as well. It's the same thing as canceling a request. We just want the verbiage to be a little bit different. And then I'll change that up here for reject request. And now we need to go to the friendship state button and do the same thing. If we have a incoming request, then we will reject the request. And actually, just to be safe, I wouldn't even say safe, just to add a little more security to it, because they may hit this on accident and maybe didn't want to reject the person. Let's prompt them first, make sure that this is what they want to do. Let's call that modal util show confirmation, and we'll say reject request, and then we'll say press yes to confirm. If confirm does not equal true, then we return. Otherwise, call the friend update block, add reject incoming request, or reject request, I'm sorry. So let's see how that looks on the app. So now I'm going to go over to the app, and I'm going to log out of Santa's helper, and I'm going to go to Trey Codes, because that's the person that was sent an invite, so I need to be looking at the UI from his perspective. And if I go to Santa's helper, I think I canceled the request. Let's do this. I'm gonna send Santa's helper a request, and then I'm going to go to that profile. And if I view Trey Codes, then I can see that he sent me a request and I can reject it. So if I click reject request, press yes to confirm, no, nothing happens. But if I hit yes, then we go back to nothing again. So I can either send him a request or he can send me another one, but I've basically descended in the friendship status again. I have the ability to cancel and reject, but I want to actually become friends with someone at some point, so I need to be able to accept a request. Same thing as before. Let's create a new event for accepting a request. Then come over to the block. We'll copy on reject request. Actually, let's copy on send, because sending is the same as accepting. They're both the additional approach of adding a friend. So it'll be the same thing as send request, just different verbiage. Accept request on accept request. This will say friend request accepted, and everything else will be the same. Then I'll register that here up top. Then I go to the friendship state button, and let's look for incoming requests, because right here. Okay, now we need two buttons here, so I'm going to instead return a row, because when we have an incoming request, we can either reject or accept. So we have the two buttons here. So I'll put that first one back in there for rejecting. And we're also going to need to change the main axis alignment on this. Main axis alignment center. And I'm going to copy this button. We'll put it before the reject. So let's see, accept request, accept request. If they hit yes, then we accept it. And let's also add some padding in here. That way they're not directly next to each other. Import that. All right, that looks good. Oh, it changed that to say accept request. Now back in the app, I'm trying to remember, did I send a request? All right, I'm going to send a request to Trey Codes. Then I'm going to get into his profile, and we're going to see the option for either accepting or rejecting the request. Let's see, Santa's helper. And we have two options now. We can either reject or accept. So I'm going to hit accept, and we've accepted it. We don't have a view for that yet because for the mutual state, we have this shrink box, but we can come over to the dashboard, production dashboard, and let's look for Santa's helper, friends, and it says that Trey Codes is a friend of mine now. Now that I have a new friend in the game, I also need the ability to delete this friend. So I'm going to come to friend update event, change accept request to delete friend. Then within the block, I will copy reject request. These two are going to be a delete friends. This is the literal delete friends method, but we're essentially declining from the mutual state, and it will say friend deleted. And then I'll come to the friendship state button, and for the mutual state, I'm going to copy this button because it has a prompt in it, and we're going to need a prompt before we delete a friend, and we want to make sure that this is something that the user actually wants to do. So title will be delete friend, and if they decide to go through with it, then we call delete friend. And let's also change the title. So now in the app, if I go to the profile for Santa's helper, I have the delete friend button here because we are currently in the mutual state. So if I hit yes, we now go back to the null state. We're no longer friends, and we can then start the process all over again. We have pretty much the majority of the functionality for transitioning between different friendship states, but the last one that we need to account for is the ability to block and unblock a friend. And we can update that right now. If I go back over to the event, I'm going to create these methods simultaneously because they kind of play hand in hand with one another. We'll call this block friend, and this one will be unblock friend. Now I need to go over to the block and create the methods for these, and these two will follow their own client call. Let's first call this block friend, and it will say friend blocked. We'll just say user blocked because technically you don't have to be my friend to block me. User blocked, and this will call block friends. Block friend, block friend. And I'm going to do the same thing for block friend for the unblock. They're going to be splitting images of each other. User unblocked, and when you unblock a friend, you're essentially deleting a friend. So that will cause you to start the whole process over, but it's another dissension in the friendship state. So unblock friend, we'll register it up here. Unblock friend, and pass that in. Then we need a way to display the content for a blocked user and the content for an unblocked user, and the blocked content is going to be related to the profile page, so I'll put it within here. We'll call this blocked content.dart, stateless widget, stateless, and we'll make this part of the profile page because it's only going to be used there. All right, and within blocked content, the only thing that we're going to have is just going to be a message that says you have this user blocked. So let me just create a theme to use. Whoops, context. And then instead of a container, we'll return an expanded widget, then a center, and then text that says you have this user blocked. What am I missing? Oh, I didn't have the child. Okay. So we have that, and then I'm going to pass the style, which will be theme dot text theme headline large. All right, and just as we have blocked content, we also need unblocked content, not context. Another stateless widget, unblocked content, use the part of syntax here. Unblocked content. And unblocked content is really going to be the content that we already have on the profile page. So I'm going to copy this align. This is the only thing that we were displaying outside of the profile page already, which they can see even on the leaderboard. So we'll just keep that here. But within unblocked content, I'm going to return that, everything in here, and then we'll add the necessary parameters to build this content. So we need a user, which can be null, so a nullable user, and then we also need a friendship state. We need a friendship state that can be nullable as well. And then I'll pass those in to the constructor. And then down here, we also need to account for it being the user being null. So I'll also add that if user equals null, then just return a size box.string for right now. All right, so user's not null, and we have a friendship state. We have everything here. So now we have the blocked content and the unblocked content. So if I come to the profile page, I can now determine which one I want to use within the block builder. So within the block builder, I can then come below final user and just have a variable called isBlocked that we'll be using. And this is simply going to be based on is the friendship state blocked. Friendship state blocked. Now, if it is, we already have a button in the corner for editing a profile, but then we can also have another one for blocking the user. So if this is not my profile, is my profile, and the user does not equal null, then we can have, we're going to copy this whole button right here. We'll have a button for blocking and unblocking the user. And we're going to take out this. So the first thing that we need to do is prompt the user, because before they block or unblock, we want to make sure that that's what they want to do. And And let's see, the title will be, it'll be based on if they're currently blocked or not. So if is blocked is true, then we'll say unblock. Otherwise, we'll use block. And then the message, press yes to confirm. Oh, did I wrap that up right? Oh, I don't think I did that right. No, that's right. That's good. What's the issue then? Let me see. Too many. Oh, put those in quotes. My bad. All right. Now, based on that confirmation, we're going to determine if we should return or not. If it's not true, then we return. Otherwise, we need to call the friend update block. But I'm going to let's create one up here. Friend update block. And then down here, if confirm is true, then we're going to add either the unblock friend event or the block friend event. And we get the user ID from the user. Okay, and also the icon is going to change based on if the user is blocked as well. So is blocked is true. We'll call MDI icons, account lockdown, account lock open, or we'll use account lock. All right, we have the actions up top taken care of, but now we need to also handle this down here where we're displaying the information. So if is blocked, then we will display the blocked content. And then if we're not blocked, we display the unblocked content. And that friendship state is on the state. All right. Now if I go over to the app and let's see, let's go to trade codes. I'm going to go to 2 chains and I have this icon in the corner for blocking this user. So I can press yes. Once I blocked him, I'm now seeing that you have this user blocked content. I can also unblock him. If I hit yes, then I go back to seeing his normal profile. We have all the events created for transitioning between different friend states. Now we need to finally wrap up by creating a page that will display all of our possible friendship types. So whether it be a mutual friend, whether it be an invite sent, whether it be invites received, or a user is currently blocked. So this is going to be in the friend domain and the CRUD operation will be list. So let's create a new block for friend list. I will use the one we had already and change update to list. And I'm not in the directory, I can already tell. So I'm going to drag and drop that in here again. Friend list into blocks. Okay. Now within friend list, I'm first going to go to the state. I'm going to make this a class state, or state class, friend list state. And add the imports. And there are a few things that we're going to need for this class. We need first a friendship state, and it won't be nullable because it will always be the same. So once we set it, we can just forget it. Friendship state, and it will be required, so we won't make it a name parameter. within here, we'll just call this .friendship state. And we also, let me import that. Then we also need to have a list of friends. Which will by default be an array. This dot friends. How did I get in there? This dot friends equals empty array. And then the copy with method will supply the nullable friends list. Which we will set down here. It will be friends or the ones that are already on the state. And then last but not least, we need to add a cursor, which we will use when fetching friends, because we're not going to fetch all possible friends in one request. We're going to use pagination. So we need to provide a cursor for that. Same thing as, I believe that was leaderboard that we worked with that did the cursor for fetching results. Let's see, string cursor and cursor. Oops. All right, we have the state. Now let's go to the event, and I'm going to make this extends equatable. And then we're going to have 3 methods that we're working with for the friend list block, and that is similar to last time, but we have an initial fetch more, and then fetch friends. The initial fetch and fetch more will be used in different areas, but they both will call on the fetch friends method. So let's create the first one, initial fetch extends friend list event. And the other 2 methods are going to be the exact same. Let's see, fetch more, and then fetch friends. Now we can go over to the friend list block, and we can add our dependencies. First, we need a friendship state that cannot be null. And then we need a Nakama based client and a session service. And for let's first inject everything here. And the friend list state requires that friendship state. So we'll pass that in. I think I might have to, it's named. No, it's not named. What's doing this? Oh, can't be a constant, that's why. All right, and I'm going to take this out of here, and let's actually start working on those events. The first one that we need to add is for the initial fetch. And I'll initialize it really quick. Now, initial fetch, all we're going to do is set the isLoading flag to true, as well as set the friends array to empty again. And then we're going to call on fetch friends. Is that right? Oh, I'm not in the right spot. Let me get in the right spot. Actually, this one I'm doing this wrong. There we go. Okay, so initial fetch is good. Now let's do the same thing for fetch more. On fetch more, and instead of setting the friends array to empty, all we're going to do is send the cursor into the next state. So just maintaining the cursor because we're fetching more and we want to use that last cursor that we had, but then it's going to call fetch friends as well. Then we can actually start the fetch friends method, which will be fetch friends. And let's provide the action for that. First, we're going to need to get a session. Then we need to get the friend list from the client. What is it called? List friends. We pass in a session, and then also some other configuration. We want to query these friends by friendship state. So essentially we're going to have 4 different friend list blocks going simultaneously, and they'll be split by whatever friendship state the user currently has between the other person. So we'll only get friendships for the current friendship state. The cursor will be whatever the cursor is on the state, and limit will be a limit I already have for friends list limit, which is 15, I believe. Yeah, 15. So we'll fetch 15 results at a time. Now, once we have the friends list, we're going to see if the friends on that friends list is null or not. Friends list dot friends. Oops. Oh, need to wait that. Friends list dot friends equals null. If so, then let's re-emit the state again. No parameters, just to turn the is loading flag off and return. However, if we have some friends, let's take them off the list. And then let's emit that to the state. So friends now becomes whatever friends were already on the state, as well as the new friends that we just got from the request. And the cursor will be the cursor on the friends list if it's null or empty. Null if empty. So not if null or empty, but that's essentially like we did with leaderboards. This will be null if it's empty. So only if we have an actual value for the cursor, an actual value, that's an easier way to say it, then we would use that cursor, otherwise we won't. Now we can go to the friend list page, and this is going to be what's being mapped to the friend list block. So up top, we're going to require a friendship state. And I'll pass that in here. And then we need to add a friend update block. So we need to inject this. But first, let me just map out everything that's needed for this. We need that friendship state. What else do we need? Client and session service. Session service. Okay, so like I said, we need to inject a friend update block. So we will return a multi-block provider here. And that child will become the friend list view. And let's do the same thing for the friend list, friend update block, I'm sorry. Friend update block. And need to import that, I believe. Need to turn this off. Huh. There we go. Friend update block needs to get Nakama client and a session service. Now that we have that, we then need to wrap the block builder inside a block listener for changes to the friend update block, because we will be able to make changes on this friend list page. So this block builder, we will return a block listener for friend update block, friend update state. And then that child will be that block builder. Then within the listener, we want to essentially, whenever we make a change to a friendship state, we want to then refetch the list. So we're just going to call initial fetch here if it's successful. If state.success does not equal null, then we can call the friend list block, and I'll create that here. Friend list block. So within here, first we can display the result from the modal util, show a success. But then we can call the friend list block and then call initial fetch again. Now I want to actually map out the page. So we need first a helper method that's going to give us the no result widget to properly display for whatever page we're currently on. So this will return our widget, and we'll just say build no results, and it's based on the friendship state, friendship state, and we're just going to switch over the states. So friendship state mutual, we're going to return the no results enum or no results widget for mutual. Oops. Okay, and I think we can. It wouldn't let me do it. I thought it was going to let me exhaust all the options. I'll just put these out here. So then we have outgoing requests. That'll go for outgoing requests. We have it for incoming requests. I'll do that for incoming requests. And then blocked, we have blocked. And let me change this to state. Okay. So we have that. Now I need to go ahead and create the column here. So I'm going to take out, well, we'll keep the size box for now. Whoops, didn't mean to do that. We'll keep the size box for now. But first thing we're going to need to get from the state is the friends. And then we need to create some variables for determining when we should have certain views displayed within the page. The first one will let us know if we should display an empty view or not. And we should display an empty view when the state is loading and friends is empty. Now, another situation is displaying no results, meaning that we need to display the no results widget saying there's nothing here. Display no results. And we do that if the state is not loading and friends is empty. And then last, we need to know if we should display the more button, and the more button is what we press when we want to fetch more results using pagination. And we display this one when the cursor does not equal null and state isn't loading. It probably makes sense to do this first. Perfect. And then I'll return just a column for now that we'll map out here in a second. So within here, the first child that I'm going to add is the expanded widget, because it's going to be the actual list view that's going to take up the remaining space on top of the more button. So first we need to check for do we display empty? If we do, let's return sizebox.shrink. However, if we are not displaying empty, then let's check and see, do we display no results? If we do, then we call build no results and pass in the friendship state. Then if that's not the case, then we can actually return the list view builder. And let's see, the list view builder will return some padding. This is starting to go off the edge a little bit. Let me try to wrap this up. Actually, let's just return a container for a hot second. Okay, so the list view builder, we need the item count, which is going to be friends.length. And we have the item builder, which will return some padding first. And we'll say edge, and actually, let's be specific. 8, 8, 8, 16. And then that child will be a row. Provide an expanded widget. Then we'll use a user list tile, which we've been using everywhere in the app for displaying user information. And we can get the user from the current friend on that index, and then the user object on that friend. So every friend object has a user attached to it. And then right after that, we can call the friendship state button, the one that we've been using on the profile page. Friendship state button, which needs a UID for the user. Oops. What else? Friendship state. Do I need them? These aren't mapped. No. And that will be friends at index state. Here we go. So this gives us the friendship state. Okay, that looks good. Then after all of this, after the expanded, we need to display the more button, and we're only going to display this if display more button is true. What's this complaining about? Oh, I think I have this in the wrong spot. There we go. So first we'll add some padding, and we'll just do all 16. And then the child, which will be an elevated button. The on press is where we will call the friend block, friend list block, and add the fetch more event. Up top, we're doing the initial fetch. Down here, we're fetching more results. And this will be some text that says more. Let's now create a friend page that will encompass all 4 friend list pages, because each friend list page corresponds to a specific friendship type. We want a friend page to hold all those together. Let's go over to view and create a friends page. And this will be a stateless widget. We'll call this friends page. I will import material, and then I'm going to first create the tabs, because we're going to be using a tab controller to go between different friendship states. And the first tab will be friends, second one invites, third requests, and then finally blocked. Then we need to create the tab content, which will pretty much be a mapping to the tab that we have. Tabs content equals a friend list page. And the first one will be for friendship state mutual. And we're going to do that for the other three, which is incoming requests, outgoing requests, and then blocked. Now let's go down to the container that we're returning right now, and we're going to instead return a GT scaffold widget. This title will be friends, and that child will be a default tab controller. Now we have the length here, which is going to be tabs.length, and we have the child, which will be a column. Within the column, the first child we're going to have is the tab bar itself up top. Let's see. And for tab bar, I'm going to specify the tabs, which will be tabs, and we're going to map them. Let's map a tab to text. That will be whatever the tab is. And then the style, let me create a theme up here. That style will be title large. And then we also need to make sure that we convert this to a list. Now that's just the tabs. While we're here, let's add some styling. Unselected label color. We'll do colors.gray. What's the issue? Label style. Oh, I'm sorry. Unselected label color. Then let's change the padding. Whoops. We'll just say 8. Label color, colors.white. Then we'll have the label style. We'll say display small. The indicator color. And I think that's it for the tab. Then right below the tab, we can put another expanded widget for the actual tab view. And that's just going to be tab bar view. And the children will be tabs content. So we have the friends page mapped out. Let's create a new route for going here. I'll alphabetize these later. Friends route, and then go to go router or go routes, not go routes, at router, at routes. Scroll down here, create a new go route for friends that goes to the friends page, and we need a new menu button on the main menu page for going to the friends page. Right, let's see. It's expecting. Oh, there we go. I think that's good. Oh, I wasn't calling this anywhere. Let's register that on fetch more or fetch friends. All right, I think that's good. I have a feeling that on the friend list page, I didn't call initial fetch, so I'm gonna check there real quick. Friend list page, when we create that block for the friend list block, we need to do an initial fetch. So add that in real quick. I think that's good. Let's see what this looks like on the app now. I'm in Santa's helper profile. If I go to friends, I can then see I have these 4 tabs at the top. I have currently no friends. I have one invite from Trey Codes that I can accept or reject. I'm going to accept it. And then let's go back to the Friends tab, and we can now see Trey Codes has been moved over to Friends. Good. We have currently no requests, but let's delete Trey. Well, let's first go to Trey's profile. Let's delete him. Then let's send him a request. And then let's first see that Trey's left the Friends category, and he's now in the request category. I've sent him a request. And let's also try blocking him real quick. So we now have him blocked, and we can now see him in the blocked category of our Friends page. So all 4 friendship states are now being displayed properly on our Friends page.